You're listening to Africa's Business Rockstars podcast with Nefa Ahoy, a show that shares the stories of successful Africans in business and how they did it. It's our story told our way to inspire our people. This podcast is sponsored by IDS Consulting Ghana Limited, a company dedicated to supporting small and medium-sized enterprises with accounting and business advisory services at an affordable rate. Visit www.idsconsultingga.com to learn more.
I can not just only rely on my skill, but I have to focus. I have to try to be better every single day. And then that for me became like a repetition. I challenge myself every day. I write my to-do list and I try to beat it in time. It became...
Hi there, and welcome to the maiden edition of the 2021 podcast for Africa's Business Rockstar. My name is Nefa and I'm going to be your host. But what better way to kick off 2021 than with a rock star who's a force to reckon with in the culinary industry. He's worked in multiple Michelin star restaurants and most recently was a finalist in the world-acclaimed Top Chef show. His name is Adjepong, and he says, "Let food be thy medicine." Hello, Eric, and welcome to Africa's Business Rockstar. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Nifa. How are you?
I'm good. You changed it. You said you were tired and happy. Why are you tired?
I'm very tired and happy, yes. Why am I tired? It's been a lot of bouncing around, a lot of projects to manage and juggle, and family man, husband, and all this stuff. It's a lot, but I'm very grateful for it, and happy for it. So it makes me tired, but it makes me happy. Yeah.
How's 2021 started? 6 days in.
6 days in, yeah. Picking up from 2020. It's been, wow, the year. I think I can speak for everybody how crazy it was.
Yep, absolutely.
So just kind of carrying the momentum from, everything that's good and that's happened last year. So we're on a good start, for real. I'm excited.
Fantastic. Yeah. Good start to the year. So we've been following, and I just want our viewers to understand who it is that we're speaking with.
Sure.
So let's get a bit of a background. Growing up as a young boy, did you always know that you would be the chef?
I had it in me. Yeah. I think very young. I was always watching like children's shows, like cartoons, and then like cooking shows right after that one. So I was always very interested at a young age, maybe 6 or 7, that I knew that I was fascinated by the culinary world, by cooking. And then also I would watch my mom and my aunts and uncles cook. And I was always attracted to how their food always brought the family together at the table. So I thought it was almost a superpower that they had.
Right.
So it was very, very interesting for me. And, I locked in very early, and I loved it.
Why that field? Not to be stereotypical, but you have guys and then the path gets supposed to chart. You know what I mean?
Yes.
In the world we live in.
Of course, I know.
Exactly. So diverting into this aspect, was that kind of weird for people to accept or no?
I say yes. I think my mom, I had the support of my parents and my family at a very young age because they always knew I was interested. But outside the nuclear family and friends and everything else, it was a difficult explanation as to why I wanted to go into the field. And
so I want to touch on the fact that you said having to explain to outside your nuclear family. So where did you grow up?
So I grew up in the Bronx, New York. I was born and raised in New York. I moved to Ghana at a very young age, quite young, from 2 to 4, and returned back to the States. And, it fell in love really with the food and the cuisine and cooking, the whole aspect of like putting fire and flame to food and making something out of it and then make a profession. I thought it was just very cool. So I was always locked in at quite a young age. And it was difficult, I think, telling my friends and, people outside of the nuclear family about, my aspirations, especially, at the secondary school here. You go to uni and you try to figure out what it is that you want to do for the rest of your life. And at that point, that pivot point, I was like, you know what, this is something I think I'll be very good at. And just wanted to continue just to practice and hone my craft. And now I'm talking to you.
I know, right? Now we're having a conversation.
Yeah.
So this decision, like you said, at this pivotal point, was this in university or was this secondary school?
Secondary school, yeah. Right around the tail end of secondary school, you have the conversation with your counselors and what is it you want to do and, where's your goals and all this stuff. So I knew in the past I was very interested in this. So, just understanding the career path and the things that could happen if I do choose this profession. I was interested at a very young age and I bought in very, very early. And I'm happy I did, to lock in and to practice and own my craft and keep doing it from a very young age. I think I really started working in professional kitchens 16 for quite a long time now, almost half my life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So did this influence the courses you studied in school and all?
Absolutely, yeah. So I went to Johnson & Wales University in the States, and to me, I would say is the best culinary school in the world. It was one of those things where when you know better, you do better. And it's not just the cooking aspect and learning how to put, a meal together, but what does that meal do for your body? What does that meal do for a community? And so forth and so on. So it's almost like a rabbit hole of more knowledge and information. The more I learned, the more I wanted to learn. And, I finished with a culinary arts and culinary nutrition degree. And then I moved to London, University of Westminster, and I continued my education in international public health and nutrition. So just, again, more learning and understanding what food is, not just on the plate, but really for the region and the world and my community specifically. Yeah.
What's the one thing you'd say that probably stuck out to you or that struck you like, oh, I didn't know this had I not charted this course or been in this educational field?
That's a good question. I think it was probably I talk about this quite often, the slave trade starting from West Africa and kind of making its way, that migration from the Caribbean and then the American South. Just the food that we all eat is very, very similar. Brazilians eat the same thing just about as West Africa, as Ghanaians. We all eat yam, we all eat plantains, ground nuts, palm oil. Like we all use the same ingredients because, we talk about like, if you know something from one country, you bring it to another, you're going to cook the same thing and you're just going to use the same products around you. So it's fascinating to me, really. One thing I didn't know before really is just how close we are, especially in food, to different places around the world.
Right. Would you say your West African background has had like a major impact in terms of the ingredients and stuff you use for your food?
Oh, absolutely. For sure. It's the first ingredients that I kind of was, introduced to, really. Yeah. Right. So cassava and again, using ground nuts. And I mean, I grew up eating kenke and banku and jollof and wache. Like these are the things that were very traditional to my folks, my parents, and maybe not so to my American friends or, anything like that. So I think I grew up with a very unique kind of viewpoint, especially in America. Yeah. Here in Ghana, it's just, we watch every day, right? Yeah. But in America, it's like, oh, what is this one? So I had a very, very interesting kind of understanding, but I learned so much more when I was actually, investing in my school and my studies and everything else and learning about more ingredients and more food, kind of really just bringing everything together at one time. Yeah.
Okay, so you sort of knew from the get-go, I think you mentioned that about age 6, that, you liked, what you were seeing. And I guess it sort of prepared your future self for what you'd be getting into. So fast forward secondary school, you have to tell your parents, this is the course I want to do. Sure, yeah. It's a cooking course. It's your money. Yeah. You're going to pay my fees. I'm a nice, tall gentleman, I can use, I can do so many things. Sure. But this is where I want to go. How did your folks take it?
I think it was easier for me to explain this to my parents, my mom and my stepfather, but it wasn't as easy I didn't go for the approval of anybody else really, but to explain like, this is the course of action and my course I want to take. I got stares and I got, why? And, all these questions as to, you can do so many other things, but nothing really spoke to me the way that food did, you know, and it was just, I don't know, it's inside you. And it really does. It's going to come out somehow. Yeah. And I think that was just for me. I also knew that I wanted to take this and do like great things with it as well, not just be a cook or be a, whatever, like, and there's no offense to that, but I wanted to really like break ground and with what I was doing. And unfortunately, I didn't see a lot of people looking like me as well as, being a chef as well. So I wanted to really like, if I'm going to do it, I have to do it as well as I can.
Of course. Yeah. So your parents have been supportive from the get-go.
Oh, for sure. Very much so. Yeah.
They must be proud now.
Oh, they have to be. Of course. Yeah. No, it's great to see. I've opened a few restaurants and, to invite my mom and my sisters there and to see them there. I know they're very proud, but it's a very proud moment for me as well, just to kind of, show them, say thank you and all the support that they've given me throughout my career. And they've seen me, in every situation, upset, angry, almost quitting, like so many times. And they've encouraged me so many more times. So it's always a thank you for me to, bring them in and feed them and really give them a great time. Yeah.
All right. So let's backtrack a little bit. So you've gotten their approval. You go to secondary school and then take this course. Is it everything you had dreamed of, or you were like, oh my goodness, what am I getting myself into?
Yeah. It was everything I dreamed of. I think I wasn't prepared for the hours and the like how long the hours are. It's not a average 9 to 5, 8 to 4 type of job, you know. So you get in at 12, you leave around 1 or 2 a.m.
Oh, wow.
And that's just the way it is. Like you know, when people are coming off of work and they want to relax and they want to have a good time and they think about the nightlife and the restaurants, this is kind of where we shine.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, we have to almost work around that. So it took me some time to just get prepared and kind of mentally prepare myself for like the shift.
Yeah.
I mean, it's occupational hazard as well. Like every job, there's something that, you know, you kind of like and you don't like and stuff like that. Yeah. So it is what it is and it's a part of the job, but yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, reading about you, we see the success, you know, we see the glorious stuff, the 5-star restaurants you've cooked in all, but I'm sure it didn't just start like that.
Never. Yeah. Never.
What was the beginning like?
The beginning was gritty, humbling. I finished uni, I remember, especially just being young, 22, 23, and I thought I was ready to own my own restaurant and, you know, be the star and all this stuff. And, you know, I worked in New York City and it humbled me very, very quickly. There's people who are just as good, if not better, you know, who are very quiet and focused and humbled. And I think that right there encouraged me to be more like that. So it was a transition, you know, it was, I came in very braggadocious thinking that, I mean, I was good, but I came in thinking I was maybe even more than I was at the time. And again, working in New York, it will let you know who you are very, very quickly, very quickly. So I think there for me was a great kind of moment to say, all right, I can not just only rely on my skill, but I have to focus. I have to try to be better every single day.
Right.
And then that for me became like a repetition. I challenge myself every day. I write my to-do list and I try to beat it in time. It became very formulaic for me at that point. So, you know, when you keep doing something over and over and over again, the point for me is to try to get better.
Right.
You know, and that's how I felt like I've been improving through the years. Yeah.
What's the first place you worked in?
The restaurant, my first ever job?
Yes.
My first ever job was at a donut store, Dunkin' Donuts. I was serving donuts. I was in.
You weren't making the donuts?
I wasn't making the donuts. I was serving them. My first restaurant job, though, was Nick's on Broadway in Providence, Rhode Island, right next to Johnson & Wales University. And I always credit my first chef, Derek Wagner, who, you know, took me into his restaurant as a student and showed me so much as far as like how to set my station up, how to prepare for the evening, how to like get my mind focused, all these little things that still to this day, as you know, as I've been cooking for how long, I still think back to, you know, him as my first kind of chef, my mentor. So he was brilliant for me and someone that I still to this day will call on and reach out to. So yeah, he was the first chef I worked for. And then I moved back to New York after school, and I worked in 2 different Michelin star restaurants. For those who are not familiar, Michelin is a world's rated caliber type of achievement. And there's 3 stars that they give. 3 is the highest stars.
Okay.
So I worked in 2 different 1-star restaurants, which showed me even more about quality and professionalism. And, you know, if the food is not right, you don't send it out. And all these things that it was just like, it has to be a standard. That right there really set me apart, I feel like. And yeah, I've been able to kind of just build off of that right now.
I'm trying to link them. So how are you getting these jobs from your first restaurant job to who you look to as your first official boss? Let me put it that way. He gave you the employment. How did you get that opportunity with him?
Yeah.
Was he in your school?
Correct. Yeah. So he actually went to Johnson & Wales as well. Okay. And then it was almost an externship that you have to take at school. So he, you know, allowed me to work there. I worked there for free, but it was for credit, for school credit. Okay. And then after that time had passed, he hired me and I worked at the restaurant for almost 2 years. And it was awesome. Again, I started from the prep, you know, prepping the food. And then when I finished, I was cooking, I was on the line and making food. And I was, you know, a pivotal part of the team. So it's all about progression at that point. When I moved to New York, when I was finished school, I just applied to the best restaurants I can get my hands on.
Okay. And you just landed them just like that?
I just landed them. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Lucky. Yeah, I know. I have one of the craziest stories in how I moved to England. It's a very long story. But
go ahead. We're here for it.
Yeah. So even when I was in uni, the guy that I looked at is top chef and everything. His name is Brian Voltaggio. Brilliant mind as far as food. And he had an opening in his restaurant and it was in Maryland.
Okay.
The state of Maryland. And I was in New York and I heard about it and I you know, found my way to get to Maryland at the time. there was about 4 other people coming from California and all across the U.S. for this one job to work for this man. And if those who are not familiar, it's not just a regular interview when you're in a kitchen. It's called a stage. You have to actually cook. Okay. You have to show your skill, see if you like them, see if they like you.
Do they give you the menu or you have to improvise?
They'll give you the menu, correct. And you just have to work the day, work the menu, and, just see how you fit and adapt. So normally stages are one day work, but with Brian, he is 2 days. So it was a very intensive interview process, so to speak. But I was lucky because I got offered the job the first day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Wow. Above everyone
Why?
else.
What did you cook?
I just focused. It was really, they like the way it's about being efficient. It's about not wasting movement. It's about being focused. And I think I did, well enough to see their attention. But the crazy part about it is, even though I was offered the job, I denied it. I moved rather to England to get my my master's. But what's crazy because Brian, he called me and offered me the job. And when I told him, I said that I was going to go to England and study, he gave me his blessing. And then maybe 6 years later, I'm competing against him in Top Chef, like my mentor and everything. And now we're going against each other. And that to me was still to this day is so crazy. And now I call him a friend and all these things. So it was very, very cool for me. And again, just a kind of testament of hard work. You never really know who you'll see or see again in a few years. Yeah.
Eric, you did make mention of how you were inspired as a child. And one of the inspirations was the fact that not everybody looked like you. So obviously you're a Black individual. We know that this industry is tough. Mm-hmm. You have to be successful. You need to be driven, to actually succeed in this industry. So what have the challenges been? Firstly, getting accepted for who you are physically, your look. You're a Black gentleman who is in this industry, not in your home country, Ghana. Sure, so there are loads of people who have already been there. Don't look like you, nothing of the sort. How challenging was it to get accepted?
It's very challenging. I think for anybody, representation matters. So you have to see somebody either in a higher position or, a position that's you wish to attain to help you even visualize what it takes to get there. I didn't have any blueprint, to be honest, or mentors, anything like that. So for me, it was just trying to be the best version of myself and understanding that there's going to be barriers regardless. So I didn't want to lean too much on that, though. Understanding that this can be times where things will be extremely unfair or things will be just incorrect, period. So it's a double-edged sword because I think it helped me in a way as well because I stand out. But there's been times where I've been overlooked in kitchens and I'm wearing my shirt and it says chef. And then people, either the purveyors or they come in to look for the boss and talking to them and they walk right by me or anything like that. So stuff like that happens. It might be more covert than overt, but it really is just a part of it. Is my experience as a Black man doesn't change whether I'm in my chef coat or I'm walking on the street in America. So, I'm kind of just used to just the overall kind of covering of just being Black and the stigmas and all that stuff. I keep it in the back of my mind. What's nice about being in Ghana is that you don't have to necessarily think about it as much, which is a relief mentally. In school, there wasn't a lot of people that, I know maybe 3 or 4 Black men and women that did my degree and my, my course and are doing very well for themselves now, still in the industry. It's very, very rarefied air. So I don't take it lightly. I know that there comes a lot of responsibility. There's also people looking at me now the way that I was looking at chefs when I was younger. So just setting the example, I think, and making sure that I'm doing the best that I can, not only to represent myself, my family, but then also Ghana and where I come from in New York and everything like that. So it's difficult, but it is also, nothing worth having in life isn't supposed to be, it doesn't come easy, of course. Yeah. So if this is the path of resistance that I have to go through, then so be it.
Right. Yeah. Right. So let's talk about being a chef, the word chef.
Sure.
Most times when we hear it back home, it's like, oh, he's a gentleman who cooks.
Sure, yeah, of course.
Is that all it takes?
No. There's a lot. There's a craft. Being a chef is a craft. Being a cook is a craft. There's proper ways to do things and improper ways to do things. If I ask you to shallow fry versus deep fry, I'm going to look for different results. If I'm looking for a saute versus sear, I'm looking for different results. So you have to know specifically what it is that you're cooking, how to cook it, the temperatures, the timing, and then you're also managing people as well. You're kind of working in the kitchen is kind of like a military brigade, so there's a captain and there's other people that fall in line underneath that person. So you have to kind of work your way up understand every station, understand every role, until you become someone who's comfortable managing all of it, you know, and at that point you become the chef of whichever space that you're in. It's a very loose term, you know, I mean, because it's not like a PhD or MD where you have to actually go through, you know, this certification and all this stuff. So it's very easy for anybody to say
they're a chef.
They're a chef, correct. Yeah. But I mean, there's so much technicality and there's so much knowledge and practice in the craft that you have to do to even become comfortable saying that, you know, especially in the States or in Europe or China or anywhere else. So it's a profession that I take extremely serious and one that I love so much. But you're right. It's a term that's very loosely used.
Yep.
And I mean, but I think once you can feel comfortable in your craft, then right there, you can start to make your way into saying that I'm a chef and then managing people and all that stuff. So, yeah.
All right, let's now talk about I would like to call it one of the biggest stepping stones for you. Maybe it's not, but we're going into the Top Chef space.
Oh,
you
for
know?
sure.
So we know you participated in that and then you actually came on it a second time as well. So give us the story. How did you firstly get into Top Chef?
Oh, boy. So for me in uni, I would watch Top Chef religiously every week. Okay. I was just so fascinated by the skill and the personalities and, you know, this is the best cooks in America in the world, and they're feeding some of the best palates in the world and best chefs in the world. And I just thought, you know, it was so brave for these people to showcase their skill in front of everybody. So I was fascinated quite early. I remember my very first date that I had with my now wife. I told her about Top Chef and how much I loved it. And, you know, we were dating and, you know, years passed and they were doing their casting for season 15. I was on season 16.
Okay.
And they came to all the major cities in the US. So New York, Houston, DC. And I cooked for them in DC. The reason how is my wife, she applied for me behind my back. Yeah. So they called my information and I cooked for them. And I was expecting to hear back maybe a month, 2 months. They called me back the next day.
Oh.
And they said, we love the food that you made and we love your personality and story. Let's talk more.
You know, I have to ask what you cooked, right?
Yeah, of course. I did I made like a bisque, a soup with corn and curry and salmon and mussels and almost like a seafood. And it was just very bright and colorful. And it's a dish that I started working on personally after school. Just wanted to kind of, you know, get my own signature dish together. And I've been working on it forever. So I was like, you know, if I'm going to do something, let me do this one.
Right.
And they were very, very impressed, apparently. So yeah, they called me back within the next day. What's so crazy about it? Again, I did season 16. This was casting for season 15.
Right.
When the first day of filming for the actual show happened, it was on my wedding day.
Oh,
May 21st.
Wow.
Yeah. So they told me everything. And this is like, you know, the biggest opportunity. I've been watching the show for years. And this is, I'm thinking that this opportunity will never come again.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I was at the altar with this in the back of my mind. I was like, this is probably, they're competing right now as I'm, you know, both things were very, very joyous. I mean, I got married, I had, you know, but I couldn't change the date and they asked me to. I was like, I can't. People were coming from everywhere.
Yeah.
So we kept in contact. The story got better, though. The story, I really thought it was over, but the story got better. I actually started working in DC. I ended up working with another chef that was on the show as well, as his executive sous chef at a restaurant in DC. And they reached out again the year after. And lucky for me, I already did all the you know, interviewing and the food and all that. So they know me, they know my skill. And then, you know, again, during that year, I did a lot as well.
Yeah.
So they called me again and say, hey, we're casting and we'd love to have you there. And they flew me to Kentucky and I started competing.
What was it like day one on set?
Very, very scary. It's almost like a camp where you see other chefs. There's 15 of us. So I see other 14 chefs and some guys are just taller than I'm tall. Some guys are taller than me, bigger than me. Like, and you see some of the women that look at the tattoo. I'm like, I don't know what I got myself into.
Real.
Yeah, this is real. And you see the judges there and it's so nerve wracking. But after the first challenge, it's like, okay, I didn't get eliminated. So I can do this. I'm still here. Right. And I think for me, the more and more I kept saying I didn't get eliminated, I'm doing something okay.
Right.
And then I realized I was at the end of the show. Like I finished all the way to the last episode. I kept even like 18, it was like 20 episodes or 20 challenges. Maybe even challenge 17 or 18. I still wasn't realizing how far I've gotten. Right. I'm just in the zone. And then I realized that there's 14 people it was 15 of us. And now there's only 3. And I'm still like, oh my gosh,
in
I
there.
really like the food, so I'm doing okay. And, you know, it was a lot of fun, challenging. We went everywhere in the South, Kentucky, Tennessee. We went to China, Macau, to cook. And it was a beautiful experience. And crazy enough, when I finished, maybe about 2 months later, they called me back again to come back for.
They must really love you.
Yeah, apparently, to come back for All Stars.
Yeah,
you know, and
yeah.
This is what's now year 17.
Right.
They've done All Stars twice. You know, and how many chefs? 15 chefs every season.
Yeah.
They could call anybody.
Yeah.
You know, and they reached out to me, so I was very honored. It's hard to say no, you know, when you do that. So I did that. And then just even this year, they call me back again to be a judge now on the other side of everything. So it's been, it's so cool to be a part of the franchise and how my name is synonymous and everything like that. And
what do you think makes them keep coming back?
I don't know. I think I'm doing something right somewhere. I don't know. I think I have a unique story. I hope I present well. And unfortunately, chefs have a very bad reputation of having like bad tempers and quick temper. So I try not to show that, you know, on television. You know, my daughter is watching. I want to make sure I have a good example for her and my family. So I mean, number one, regardless of work or whatever, respect everybody. And that's just kind of the mentality I had. And it's easy to work with people like that. And well, it seems like I've been able to do that very well, and they enjoy that. So yeah.
In one of the episodes, you pitched a restaurant idea.
Yes. Yeah, I remember. Oh man, I remember that one. That was for a restaurant concept that I still have in mind. You know, COVID has been insane, but once everything hopefully settles down, I really hope to launch that. But yeah, it was really just the restaurant concept was talking about that slave migration. You know, starting with food from West Africa and those flavors and spices and, you know, maybe some of the Caribbean flavors and spices. And again, kind of bridging the gap between everything. I really thought, one, I've been to a lot of restaurants. I've never had food that tell me a story in that way. So I know there's an avenue for that. And, you know, the food that we come from and we are known and we're used to is so good. It's so delicious, but the world doesn't know about it. I say it all the time. Africa is the second biggest continent in the world, yet the food is so unknown. And it doesn't make much sense. You know, people know Chinese and people know European, and people know American and so forth and so on. But there's so much that started from Africa, especially from this region in the West region. So yeah, that's something that I would love to just, you know, explore and really elevate as well.
How do you come up with the recipes? I mean, I know you have the Ghanaian infused in there, but then you add other stuff.
Sure. The way I guess my mind works around coming up with something new, it's almost like a big Venn diagram. It's weird because I remember, it may not sound like it makes sense, but the artist Pharrell Williams, he says this sometimes and it makes sense to me. He says that he can see the sounds that he's producing. He sees it. And I kind of can see what the dish for me would look like. I know physically what I want it to look like. I know what I want it to taste like. Then for me, it's just kind of coloring the lines. Like, what can I add this to the dish, and how can I make it pair well with this flavors and stuff like that? So it's a big Venn diagram. I will put maybe like, we can do it right now. It's an exercise. Give me anything. Yeah, apples, strawberries, whatever, like coffee. And, you know, I would say what goes well with coffee? Milk, obviously, right? Or what goes well with milk? Then you can kind of bridge it from there and kind of put those flavors together. And if you do that long enough, you have almost like a cohesive kind of plate or a timeline. And from there, I can say, I want to do maybe some steak that has a coffee rub or, you know, something like that. And really just develop those flavors. So it's a little bit of a formula, but there's also just a lot of creativity, I think.
We're saying we're going to talk about pinch and plates, which is a concept you co-founded with your wife, Janelle. So tell us about it.
I love this story. So we were dating, boyfriend, girlfriend. And for her, she has a boyfriend that is also a chef. So she just moved to New York. For her, she wanted to, you know, have a dinner with her friends and everything. And she asked me to do it, of course. So we did the planning and everything out. And I remember I'm preparing the food in the kitchen and we just started dating. So, or maybe a few months in. And I remember finishing up and I turned the corner to look at the table that she prepared. And I'm like, wow, I knew you were good, but I didn't know it was going to be this nice. And then almost at the exact same time, we had an idea that was like similar. This is something that could be almost a business if we took it serious. And, you know, we had the dinner, everybody had, you know, enjoyed themselves. And that night we sat down and we talked about like, hey, if we were to maybe do a catering business where you can come in and do the ambiance and the table settings and provide the atmosphere, and then I obviously cook, like, I think this is something that could be very, good for us. So we built a website and we announced it, and very soon the website crashed because a lot of people were trying to come, and we started getting recognized in like magazines even before we started having maybe like 5 events under our belt. And it just grew from like small events, birthdays, and to like milestone birthdays to weddings and stuff like that. So it's a very cool concept. The client reaches out to us, the host reaches out to us for whatever event they have. And, we completely cater everything, but we set up the decor and everything else, and we leave as if we were never there.
Okay.
Which is really nice for people. They don't have to lift a finger. They just are hosting, which is at that point, you become very relaxed. You can talk to your guests a lot more. You're not worried about the food and everything else. So it's a very, very great alternative for people who, it's not easy hosting an event. You get overwhelmed. You can get overwhelmed very quickly. So seeing that this is something that I do quite often, it made sense. We're no longer doing pinch and plate. We had a baby, which took a lot of time and everything. Life took over. But then also COVID was just like, we were coming to people's homes and doing things like that. And with the baby at home, it's just like, this is probably the best point at this. And it got overwhelming. It was very like, we were doing events quite often, and it was just a lot. So that transitioned into so much for me. But I was supposed to open up a restaurant as well last year, 2020, called On the Double, and I announced the restaurant opening March 9th, and then March 15th, I think everything shut down in the world.
The world went on standby.
The world went on standby. So it was crazy because I was very excited to, the whole year, even in 2019, planning for, the restaurant, and, all the months that took for the preparation and the money that was spent behind everything as well. It didn't happen, but I'm also very appreciative of kind of how everything kind of unfolded.
So you did mention how you've been blessed, thankfully. So COVID didn't have any major impact on you. But like you said, you have friends whose restaurants were closed down, for instance. I mean, the world over, we heard about it. So in instances like this, when what gives you your daily bread is not available.
What do you do?
What do you do with your life?
So the virtual classes have been very, very good for me. And they've turned into corporate classes where I'm doing stuff for Google and Amazon and everything like that. So that's been a huge blessing beyond what I thought when I initially started doing it. I have a cookbook working right now, keeping me busy.
Okay.
I'm consulting for other, I'm here in Ghana consulting for a restaurant. I also have 2 consultation projects back in the States as well. So, businesses still opening and looking for the future past COVID, looking for help with their menu. So I'm helping with that. And what else? Really, still doing private events as well, not as many, but more coveted. I have now for me the opportunity, or I guess the option to select more, which ones that I want to do. And I've been lucky to cook for some very, very influential people and some great people as well. So being selective with that and traveling and cooking, there's a lot of that. So 2020 was still pretty good for me. Even though it wasn't the way I thought it would be. So, I'll just hope to continue that this year.
Right. I'm going to ask another question. So it seems like you've been quite successful. Is this as a result of your feature on Top Chef? You think without Top Chef, you'd be where you are?
Yeah. I think the skill will show through no matter what. I mean, Top Chef I got on Top Chef's radar, not because of what, my wife applied, but I also did shows on Food Network, and I've done, I've been in magazines before Top Chef and things like that. So people knew about me, but Top Chef was something that
elevated.
really, for sure. But it might've just taken a little bit longer, but I know where my skills are. I know, where my mind is as far as the food. So I knew I wasn't worried about it happening. It just went. Yeah.
When you talk about what you do, your art, I can see the passion. I mean, when I asked you the Top Chef question, you're like, of course. So what impact do you hope to have with this? I call it an art.
Sure. Yeah. I want to be able to leave a mark. I think we all grow up eating the same foods, and no offense to the tradition, but there's in order to kind of push culture forward, there has to be some sort of innovation towards it. And you can always even give homage and call back to the tradition. So I like to take the food that we know and are very familiar eating and push it forward and bring it to the table where, you know, it can stand with the Italian food, with the French food, and not just the way it tastes, because it's pretty objective. The food in Africa and West Africa tastes amazing, but sometimes it's not as presented as well, or it's not explained as well. And, you know, with the knowledge that I have, not only from my formal training, but also just being from, you know, Ghana, you know, both my parents from Kumasi, and, you know, I'm the first person in my entire family born in the United States. So like if it wasn't just for the Atlantic Ocean, I feel like it's the same thing, right? Yeah. My voice is maybe different. My accent is different, but it's the same, really. So I grew up very, very similar to how most people here grew up, just in a different area. Yeah. So bringing those two things together, I have a very, I think, unique kind of viewpoint in the culinary space, and, you know, collaborating with people and really just spreading the gospel of good food from West Africa and West Africa's reach is what I want to do and what I champion myself on. So that's my legacy. That's what I want to do and be as great as I can at it. Yeah.
Just riding on the back of what you just said, which of West African, Ghanaian recipes have you taken and sort of made your own and put on the international platform?
The first challenge on Top Chef, I gave the head judge Shito, and what a risk. What a risk, right? But I added a little bit of honey to sweeten it up and to blend well with I think it was a scallop dish that I made. And he was so impressed by the flavor, but he was like, wow, the heat is something I've never experienced. So it intrigued him immediately. You know, this is, again, he's tried all the food in the world. He's never had this before. So he's eating something for the first time. So he's also being educated as he's, you know, is eating. And that right there was, you know, something I thought was really unique. I've taken jollof rice and made it into like a paella, like a West African version of a, you know, Spanish dish. I taken sobolo and I've turned it into sorbet, ice cream. And so many things. Just very creative. Yeah, it's a lot. But, you know, this is what excites me, you know, just taking the food and taking things that we know as, you know, tradition and how we would traditionally eat it and then just kind of flipping it on its head. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. So on Africa's Business Rockstars, we have what we call the Rockstars quote.
Yes.
And it's basically your mantra. You know, I know you like to say, let food be thy medicine.
For sure.
Yes. Is that your mantra?
One of them. Yeah. One of them. I think you pay the farmer first before you pay the hospital. And this is true. Like you have to eat, you know, you eat your food and it becomes your nourishment. So I really am that deep into food. But I think ultimately my biggest quote is adversity is a terrible thing to waste. You know, last year, again, it was a very adverse year. No one really knew what to do. But, you know, when you kind of ground yourself and see the avenues through the chaos, you can make things happen and you can do very well. So you just have to pause and believe in yourself and your skill. And, you know, I wasn't going to be shaken up, you know, as big as my plans were in January this year. This time this year, I was thinking I was opening up a restaurant. Right. And now I'm here, you know, doing one in Ghana. So like, I don't leave yourself close to opportunity. Say yes more than no. Say
yes more than no. I like that. Thank you so much, Eric, for being a guest on Africa's Business Rockstars. My name is Nefa and I've been your host. Don't forget to follow our social media handles at Africa's Business Rockstars on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We hope you've enjoyed this conversation. Stay tuned for our next episode.